Putin is reacting to the opportunities that are presented to him, and he makes calculations based on what he is seeing here in America and elsewhere. And he's seeing a corrupted administration whose chief executive, the president of the United States, has been compromised ethically by his sons and his own involvement in shakedown operations in Ukraine and elsewhere. And you think he obviously has not been intimidated by anything Biden has said. And we have to ask, why is that? First up is the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. I'm old-fashioned when it comes to assigning blame to military conflict. I blame the aggressor. In this case, obviously, the blame is on Putin, who is engaged in this unprovoked act of aggression, as President Biden has said. We should, though, as Americans, take heed of the international situation that encouraged Putin to take this outrageous act in invading Ukraine and causing one of the most serious crises in Europe in 60 some odd years. This crisis is erupted in part because of Western fecklessness. Is that the right word? Fecklessness. The corruption of Europe and the United States, the corruption of the Biden administration, the odd priorities here in America that puts national security and strength second to ideological obsessions, especially in the military with CRT and the crazed focus on anything but warfighting in the military. And of course, we had Biden's personal corruption issues. You know, one of the things the media won't tell you about that I've been trying to inform you about is the corruption that I believe has encouraged Putin to take this outrageous act. And again, I blame Putin, but I also want to hold accountable our government for its incompetence and corruption that helped create the opportunity here for Putin to take. And you know, look, let's go back before I start talking about Biden personally or Biden administration generally. Let's take a step back. I want you to consider the trillions of dollars we've spent on our national defense, on our foreign policy initiatives, on foreign aid in Europe and elsewhere, on our national security establishment, the CIA, the NSA, et cetera. Think of the trillions that we've just spent even only in the last 20 years or so, all of which were designed to prevent the exact situation that we're facing today. This unprovoked war, this war of aggression by Russia in the heart of Europe. And I don't know where it's going to lead, but these are dangerous times. And we spent all of this money to prevent this type of activity by Russia in terms to ensure the security of Europe generally and to avoid warfare. And it failed. And our deep state has failed miserably in that regard. Specifically with respect to Joe Biden, as I highlighted to you last week, we have these personal corruption issues that I'm sure has led Putin to view the America as a weakened, corrupt entity that is not to be taken seriously. He has seen what we have seen. The media won't talk about it, but you know about it, which is the activities of Hunter Biden in Russia. In Russia. Remember, he got money from the wife of a deceased oligarch of Russia. I think $3.5 million was transferred to one of his entities. And of course, he had that deal with Burisma. And Burisma, as I've pointed out, is a Ukrainian company that is Russia-centric. So the Russians had the Biden family in their back pocket in some respects. Now, do you think Putin wasn't aware of that? And on top of that, we had the Ukrainian government being used as a plaything by the deep state in trying to get Trump, trying to attack Americans, which further fed Russia propaganda that Ukraine was a tool of the United States. And the reckless disregard for the sovereignty of Ukraine by the mandarins at the State Department, like Ambassador Yovanovitch and folks like that, have helped precipitate this. Remember, just over 2 years ago, Judicial Watch uncovered that the Trump administration, actually, was the State Department run by Ambassador Yovanovitch, the same crew that tried to impeach Trump for highlighting the very issues I'm talking about. What were they doing in the Ukrainian embassy, our embassy in Ukraine? Monitoring and spying on American citizens by monitoring their social media posts, contrary to federal privacy law, about what people were saying about Ukraine, Biden Burisma, the Clinton campaign, Soros, who was another big player in Ukraine in terms of the using Ukraine as a plaything for an ideological agenda. And they were tracking the social media posts of people like the president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, Fox News personalities like Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, and Lou Dobbs, Jack Posobiec. Who else? John Solomon, the president's son. So that's what our embassy was doing in Ukraine. Rather than doing their work, they were doing spy operations against their political opposition here at home. And we're surprised that Putin saw this, takes a look at this corruption. He knew what was going on. And this is the unhappy result, the deadly result of our incompetence and our corruption here. And, I blame Putin. To be clear, I blame Putin. But Putin is reacting to the opportunities that are presented to him, and he makes calculations based on what he is seeing here in America and elsewhere. And he's seeing a corrupted administration whose chief executive, the president of the United States, has been compromised ethically by his sons and his own involvement in shakedown operations in Ukraine and elsewhere. And you think he obviously has not been intimidated by anything Biden has said. And we have to ask, why is that? Why is that? So I don't know what we're going to do about Ukraine. I don't have the solution other than, policy-wise, we have to recognize that the green energy agenda is a threat to our national security. So to the degree we are more energy dependent, either here or in Europe, on Russia, obviously that makes it harder to confront Russia aggression. And the reason that we are more dependent on Russia energy is because, especially in Europe, they've curtailed their own domestic energy production, again, pursuing this extremist green agenda. Same here at home, where the United States government is going to war against energy producers in a way that makes us more dependent on outside sources of energy, as opposed to the tremendous wealth of energy that we have here at home that can be exploited by our own people. So we've got this corruption crisis that's metastasized into this international security crisis. We have to call it as we see it. But the media doesn't want to talk about it. The Republicans don't even want to talk about it. So Judicial Watch is going to continue to investigate the Biden corruption with respect to Ukraine and Russia, and China, and everywhere else. The Biden family has leveraged Joe Biden's power, office, improperly for personal financial advantage. And not just something that is distasteful, something that potentially is illegal in terms of misuse of public office and hiding resources and monies that have come in. Because right now there's a criminal investigation of Hunter Biden into conduct that, according to publicly available evidence from his laptop and other witnesses, implicates his father. And yet there's been no special counsel. So I tell you, if we had held accountable the Biden administration from the get-go, we might have had a different result. And if we had understood, and I mean we generally, because the media has been corrupted, but we must understand the impeachment of Donald Trump is as important to what's happening in Ukraine today as anything else. Because, as I said, Trump knew what was going on and he wanted to stop it, and his punishment was You can't expose Obama, Biden, Clinton corruption and Ukraine's role in that. It's so terrible, we have to impeach you over it and destroy you. That's how desperate they were. So put that in your proverbial pipe and smoke it as you consider the current crisis in Ukraine. Let's pray for the innocents who are losing their lives and those who are bravely defending themselves against this monstrous act of aggression by Putin. But let's not be naive that we put Ukraine in this position in part, and now the consequences are for Ukraine to reap. And as our corrupt political class looks on with virtually no accountability, but from Judicial Watch.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.